Hypoxia is a condition of the water when there's not enough oxygen. So things like us who need oxygen, fish, crabs, starfish, snails, they can't live without enough oxygen. So they either have to move out of the area, or if they have to stay because they live in the sediments, they die. We have one cruise a year that's called our shelf-wide cruise, and it's the one where we map the large area. And we start from the Mississippi River, we go as far as we can into Texas before we run out of time, or in some cases before a hurricane runs us back inshore. And so we have anywhere from 80 to 100 stations. This year we mapped east of the Mississippi River and found a lot of hypoxia to the east as well, because it was a record flood year for the Mississippi and we expected a large area. People still have a problem with identifying the area of low oxygen or the dead zone with what's happening in the middle of the country with regards to nutrients and too many of them coming into the waterway. It's a long ways away to think that something that you're doing in Illinois or Iowa, Wisconsin has effect on the water in the Gulf of Mexico, but it does. The more we continue to use excess nutrients, the system is shifting in its tolerance to those additional nutrients. So it actually takes less nitrogen to form the same size of a dead zone now than it did in the past. People ask, hasn't hypoxia always been there? Because the river's been flowing forever, but the data don't go back far enough, so we take sediment cores and we can slice and date those cores and look for indicators, biological indicators or chemical indicators of how the system's changed over time. So it's very clear that productivity's increased and oxygen conditions have gotten worse, especially since the 50s, and accelerated since the 70s. That pattern is seen everywhere else in the world where there's industrialization and artificial fertilizers, particularly post-World War II. The Danube that flows through Europe enters the Black Sea and has a delta very similar to the Mississippi River. And their nitrogen and phosphorus was going up just like ours. Their low oxygen was getting worse. It was 40,000 square kilometers. Ours is 20,000 square kilometers. And with the breakup of the Soviet Union, with that economic disaster, it just declined. The nitrogen and phosphorus declined, and within 6 years or so, there was very little or no hypoxia there. Now, that's a drastic, draconian way of reducing nutrients because there's a lot of hardship with that, but it does show if you reduce the nutrients, you can improve the oxygen conditions.